Okay,
Right.
hopefully everyone can see my screen.
Looks good.
Okay. So the couple things we're going to talk about today are furniture and accessories, design tips, and then we're going to go into planning, the fun stuff. So the first thing we're going to talk about are multifunctional pieces. So when you are downsizing, you may want to consider incorporating furniture that's going to serve more than one purpose. And you may already have some of these pieces already in your home. For example, an ottoman that's going to have storage in it as well. So that's going to have seating and storage. So multifunction there. Another thing you could do, a really simple trick, is adding a dresser as your nightstand. So typically you're going to have nightstands, right, that are shorter and smaller and don't provide as much storage. This is a really good trick to get more clothing storage. Another trick you could do is doing a secretary desk. I love this option because you're providing a console, a writing or computer desk, as well as maybe a dresser for more clothing storage. This is another example. I think this is another writing desk. This part kind of slides out. So they're also using this as a nightstand as well. So from doing multi-tiered consoles and coffee tables, so you may typically see consoles with a surface and 4 legs, but think about your storage needs. Having more shelves or drawers might be better use of storage. I like to add in baskets for items I use frequently, and that adds some texture as well. So, and this is also a great way to accent your accessories or your sentimental items. So for shades, if you are not a fan of doing like a heavy drape, maybe do a semi-textured shade is a great option for you. It's going to let light in while still adding some interest and privacy. You can also layer in a drape if that's the look you like. That's going to give you a little bit more privacy, or maybe on the occasion where you don't want light in, maybe if you're not a morning person and you want to sleep in and pull the drapes over. So on sort of the flip side with doing drapes, the trick of hanging drapes is you want to hang them as high as you can. It's the easiest way to make your ceilings look higher. It's you want to place that rod really close to the ceiling to make use of that height, and then make sure you extend your rod on either side of the window so your window is going to appear taller and wider, and that's also going to allow more light in because you can kind of pull your drape to the side. And then, of course, you can layer in the shade and drapes just to add some like texture and interest. So storage solutions. This is my favorite thing. I have an organized storage system in place for you. Baskets and bins with labels are a great way to keep your items tidy. It's going to also help you find that thing you put away and now can't find. I don't know if you're all like me, but I always put things in a safe spot and then forget where that spot is. So I need to get myself some bins with labels. So consider having bins for different items too. So maybe your wicker baskets have towels and linens, and maybe your plastic bins are more cleaning supplies, and then maybe your canvas are clothing storage. And then utilize a space under your bed for storage as well. And then maybe you have a special box or bin that is for sentimental items, like maybe documents or photos or things like that, that you can easily identify that bin as your sentimental item box. So mirrors. So adding mirrors will make your space appear larger. Plus, a mirror is going to help reflect all that natural light that floods in. So it's going to leave your space feeling really open and airy. Sort of the general rule of thumb is a mirror doesn't want to be any larger than the item it's over. And you want to leave some wall space on the sides to add in like lamps or accessories or florals. So plants. Plants play a really important role in kind of creating that good feng shui in any living room because it's going to add that life energy. It also is going to help purify the air and give the room a splash of texture. You can hang these. You can hang these like this image is showing. You can put them on a shelf, or you can put them in a decorative vase, or you can even do a small tree if your room provides. So if you're like me, I do not have a green thumb. So if you're like me, maybe a succulent is something good for you. It doesn't require a lot of water or light. Other thing you can do is do faux plants. It's still going to give you that feeling of life in the room, but while adding that texture and color in your space. For your headboard, for your bed, think about doing something higher. It's just going to add height to the room. I like to do an upholstered bed. It just adds some sort of like softness to your room and maybe even some acoustics. Look for details that express your style, like wood accents, buttons, or nail head trim. Also remember, if you are going to do some under bed storage, think about how much room you really have. Some beds really come down low to the ground. So seating. So most people believe that a small space means that you have to use sort of small furniture everywhere. Instead of doing that, focus on the scale and proportion of those pieces within your space. I think people often sometimes choose pieces that are either too big or too small for their space, particularly sofas. So maybe consider doing like a love seat instead of a large sofa or sectional. Try to resist adding too much seating that will crowd your room. Also remember, most communities like Barclay Friends, New Building, Preston will have a beautiful living space that can accommodate more seating and people. So using your vertical space. Taking advantage of your vertical space by taller items. A smaller space means that there's very little actual floor space in your room. So to combat that lack of floor space, go vertical with your storage and decor. I love some of these examples. This item is really great because it's light wood. Sometimes a darker wood just has this visual weight. So I really like that it's light, and also the glass doors really help it feel light and airy. If you have a lot of books or accessories, I think the floating shelf is a really nice option to kind of display those items. These two are really great just because they don't have a back or a side, and it just adds like just visual lightness. And of course, this is a great option if you're limited on space because it's a corner unit. So a gallery wall, so photos. So personalize your walls with photos of loved ones or pictures that are meaningful to you. These are all really great options. Something like this to really fill your space with pictures. This is another option you can do for a gallery wall. It's more eclectic in style, different frames, different heights, and different mediums. This has also been really popular. It's a shelf that has sort of this groove in it that lets the pictures rest in. And you can really do a really interesting composition with different frames and different heights. And then of course, if you have that beautiful picture that you love, you can make that the focal point of the room. So I thought some of the basic principles of feng shui were really relevant for this presentation. So feng shui, it's a practice that makes our homes healthier and more organized, but it also reveals how connected we are with our homes and in turn, how they affect our mood and well-being. I think this is really true, at least for me. I sometimes get stressed or have anxiety when my space or house is just messy and cluttered, and I just need to clean it so I can feel, less stressed, right? And a smaller space is going to magnify anything that isn't in its place. So beyond being visually appealing, streamlining those spaces can improve your home's feng shui. An excessive amount of clutter kind of stops us from having that clarity of thought, and that can weigh us down emotionally. So feng shui is a little less about having that perfectly styled home. It's more about creating a happy and healthy environment. So what's the solution for that? It's really clearing that clutter. Make sure that you have the correct organizational systems in place for everything in your life. So from paying bills to reading, storage, having different designated spots for all those things. Maybe your keys, your sentimental items, all these things in place. So they're going to feel lighter, less frazzled, more efficient and organized. So before you go into your space, you really need to tidy up and edit your home before you move. This is a really important step, especially when thinking about feng shui. You don't want to create too much clutter. So you might be thinking, where do I start? My home is huge, and where do I start doing all of this? Well, start by looking at your meaningful items. And your meaningful items are things that make you happy or spark a memory, or simply just you cannot live without, right? So look at photos of the space. You may be looking at Preston, maybe look at those photos, or maybe you've done dimensions. Look at those photos, imagine it decorated with the items that are most meaningful to you. So visualizing that will help you collect those items and bring them to your new space. Knowing exactly how much space you have to work with, right? So maybe your current couch you love and is meaningful to you, but it won't fit in your new living room. So maybe it is time to part with that. You're probably going to have more meaningful items that can fit in your space. So what you could do is sort of organize all those things visually so you can see them all together. And you may have, 4 meaningful chairs, but only 2 will fit in your space. So now it's kind of that time to kind of get rid of those duplicate items. For your sentimental items, your love letters, your baby photos, accomplishments, all those accessories that spark a memory, think about putting them in that sentimental box, and you can bring with you or show them off in a frame or a shelf. So after you've pared down all those meaningful items, what is left might be things you can part with. So that's sort of this editing out phase. Your clothing, your furniture, your accessories, your books. Maybe there's things that are sentimental to you, but will not fit in your new space. Maybe you want to pass those down to family members and friends. You can also donate. There's Goodwill, Salvation Army, Dress for Success. You can also resell. So if you think that the things you have are really valuable and you want to sell them and to get some of these other furniture items, that's a good option. Books, you can donate those to local schools, libraries, and hospitals, and of course, Goodwill and Salvation Army. Computers, you can do youth centers or career development nonprofits, and then animal shelters always will take linens. Okay, so now we're getting into the fun stuff, the room planning, right? So 3 concepts to think about when planning. So scale, proportion, and balance. Proportion is going to refer to how well those pieces fit together, whereas scale refers to how well the pieces fit in your space. Your eye can sometimes easily identify something that looks out of place. For example, you wouldn't really pair a really small love seat with a large, oversized sofa or chair because it would appear disproportionate to each other. So balance is the idea when you walk into a room, everything sort of has its place. There's a visual calmness. There's 2 ways to achieve that. It's symmetry and asymmetry, which we're probably all very, aware of. Symmetry is that idea that there's a mirror image, right? And it's a great tool to create those visual pairs. And a bedroom is something that typically lends itself to symmetry, as like the bed's usually commonly placed in the center of the room and the nightstands on either side. Asymmetry can be a little bit trickier to master, but asymmetry usually allows you to be a little bit more creative. Asymmetry is the idea of creating balance with items that are different while still maintaining some kind of cohesion. So when looking at this plan, I'm already seeing that there is a lot of asymmetry. There's a lot of these bump outs in the walls. These walls don't line up. So I'm kind of leaning towards laying this out in an asymmetrical way. So I'm going to put the bed here. thinking I'm probably going to have some sort of console or TV here. So I kind of laid it out here because I also didn't want to pinch point between these 2 points here. And then we talked about using dressers as a nightstand. So I want to do a big dresser here with a lamp. And then I'm going to do a seating here next to natural light with a nightstand. And then across, I'm going to do another dresser for storage with a TV. And then over here, I have room for a small dining table with some chairs. Over here is kind of this flex space. I think this could be anything you want this to be. I decided to do a taller bookshelf. This could be a great area for that secretary desk or writing desk. I had some room at the end of the bed, so I decided to do a storage ottoman. And then, of course, I wanted to add some greenery, so I did a plant in the corner. So now we laid out our room. Now you get to see kind of how we styled this. So the next slide, you'll see that.
When finding storage solutions for your downsized space, consider using your tall pantry as a catch-all for all your personal items. Use bins or decorative baskets to keep your items organized. You can even add bin labels to make it easier to find what you're looking for. A gallery wall with pictures of loved ones is a great way to personalize your space. Using a dresser for a TV stand will maximize your clothes storage. Remember to keep your surfaces free of clutter and consider adding in your favorite florals to bring in texture and color. When styling an open bookshelf with all your meaningful items, it is important to consider tones, texture, and variety. Think about using books, pictures, a vase or bowl, plants, sculptural pieces, or baskets. Group them together to create a balance that is pleasing to your eye. Also, create a small space for you and your guests to relax and visit. Consider the space to be next to natural light with views of nature. And remember to hang your curtain rod high and extend the rod beyond the window frame to let light in. Use a dresser as a nightstand to maximize your storage. Add a taller lamp and hang artwork to create height and interest. Bring in some greenery for texture and feng shui. If there is room at the foot of the bed, add in a storage ottoman. This allows for storage and extra seating. When selecting furniture for your space, remember to think about scale, proportion, and balance. Too much furniture can create visual weight. Remember, you can use asymmetry and still create a well-balanced space. Use color, texture, and pattern to personalize your room. Think about using pattern in smaller amounts, like a pillow or drapes, and balance that out with solids and textures. When using a lot of wood tones, remember to consider the visual weight of a darker color. For example, I used a darker dresser, but paired it with light bedding and light wood side tables. I brought in a darker shelf, but added some pops of color throughout to create depth and contrast. This space is available for you to tour in the Preston building at Barclay Friends. If interested, you can reach them by phone. The number is 610-696-52.
Okay, so this is, that was the end of the presentation. So if anyone has any questions, please ask them now.
Oh, I did have one. I'm kind of the same way. I don't really have a green thumb, but of course, like I kind of like having plants around and stuff. Is there a particular one? I know you had a list, but do you have like a favorite one or two? I know I have one pothos plant because I can just neglect it all I want and it'll still stay alive. But
I do love that plant only because I love like the vines, that I love how it droops down. I love that one. I like the spider plant. I used to have an aloe vera plant. The one thing that you have to be careful of though is, I mean, I don't know if pets are allowed in some of these communities, but I know my cat will eat all my plants and get sick. So I usually don't have any real plants, but I usually do faux, but I do like that one, the pathos and the spider plant.
I do have a couple here. So what is the number one design mistake people make when they're moving into maybe a smaller space?
I think the clutter of furniture. I think lining the whole entire room with furniture and just having too much of it. You really want to have that floor space to be able to move around easily.
Okay. And do you have any recommendations on like paint colors for smaller areas?
I would go lighter in paint colors, especially for a small space. If you do want to do something a little bit, with some kind of tone, not just white, agreeable gray is the Sherwin-Williams color that is very popular. It's not too gray, it's not too white, it's not, it's warm and cool. It's just a great color.
Awesome. Does anybody else have any questions? I got one here. What are your recommendations for items on the bookshelf, and how many items per shelf?
So I could do an entire presentation on on bookshelves. So I would just say keep a variety of items. So books are a good filler. I love using books as just filling the space. If you don't have that many books, you could do bowls, vases are good. Always put in some kind of greenery. Baskets can fill the space too. If you don't have many items, you can fill the space with baskets. There really isn't a perfect tip of like how many items per shelf. It's really just what's pleasing to you. Again, I could do a whole presentation on the perfect kind of symmetry of that, but it's really what makes sense to you.
And
then my shelves always look cluttered.
And any recommendations for closets?
So I had a really small house. In my closets, I try to utilize the hanging. So I have like the shoe hanging thing, and I use that a lot. Creating multiple shelves, if you have that vertical height, creating shelves so you could do bins and baskets in the shelves. And then also if you have the floor space, in my dresser or in my closet, I have a small dresser like in my closet.
Someone asked, can you review the various types of baskets again? I could share that slide if you want. Where was it? There it is. Second.
Oh yeah, those. Okay. So yes, you could do the wicker baskets are great. I love wicker baskets. And then there's canvas ones that have labels pre-printed. And if you're ever in need of baskets, the greatest thing in the world is the Container Store. I will go in there for hours and hours. They have great stuff. And the canvas ones are really great to have a zipper and a label. And then there's like the plastic ones that I like just for the cleaning supplies, just because it's easy to, I don't know, it just seems a little bit more utility for like some cleaning products, and you can wipe them down. And there's even more like examples, but these are just the few that I like.
All right. Any other questions to wrap up here? All right. Well, I did record today's session, so if you would like a recording, feel free to give us an email. That should be included in any of the emails you received over the past couple of weeks. Just reply to one of those. You'll get directly to me. I'd be happy to send that over. Thanks again, Laura, for joining us today.
Thank you.
No problem. And
Thanks so much.